Today I'm trying some more of you guys' suggestions. In our last drag racing video, I tried something that I was very hesitant against, but you guys kept pounding on me about it, and I added some weight to the front of the car, and it turns out it helped me tremendously. It made me start to think about what other suggestions you guys have given me on my no prep journey that I haven't really been too fond of. I've been hesitant to try, but what other ones I could try that maybe will help me out. And this week, as we're dodging some more rain again, I figured it'd be a good week to do some work on the workbench. A couple of you guys have been mentioning how you do enjoy just workbench videos, so as I'm going through and trying a couple things, I'll take you along for the ride with me. First thing I need to do today is replace that bent drive shaft that I talked about on the last video. And while I'm in there, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure everything's all greased and lubed up and ready for our next passes. Something you may have noticed when I pulled this bent drive shaft off is we have a wear spot here right in the center. We shouldn't really have a wear spot in the center of a drive shaft on a drag car. That is actually coming from the sway bar. If you could see, this end ball mount of the sway bar is really close to that drive shaft. And it turns out they are rubbing under compression. You can see here on the side that wasn't bent. As I go through the suspension, that drive shaft is rubbing on that ball end here. The way these sway bars are designed, there's a hole in the top, there's a ball stud in here, and if I just loosen up on it a little bit, it'll actually pick it up and move it away from the drive shaft. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you can see where we're at here. If I start loosening up on this ball stud, you can see that space coming between the drive shaft and the sway bar. And now as I travel through the suspension, it's only all the way at the top that we're rubbing. Everywhere else we have some space. I'm actually gonna come about a turn more, half a turn to a turn more. And now, I know it might be kind of hard for you guys to see, but now all the way through, I'm not rubbing anywhere. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side as I put it back together now. I'm busting the scales back out today to talk about suspension actually. I wanted to try out a couple of things you guys have suggested to me with suspension over the past basically 2 years now. And when I started doing some research into it, putting things together to try those things out, I came across a couple of things and well, I'm gonna try not to be too long-winded here. I'm just hoping this will maybe start some discussion. Someone can shed some light for me. If you watched my build series on this car or any of my suspension videos in the past, you know I run 100 weight oil in the rear. I'm running currently these purple weight associated shocks. I've had so many people since I very first got into RC drag racing tell me about them running super heavy weight oil in the rear. A lot of people running diff fluid even. A lot of people talking about from 1K to 3K, some 5K, but mostly in between the 1 to 3K range in diff fluid. And I was completely blown away reading that. I'm running 100 weight and that seems really heavy. And I'm thinking, man, 1000 weight, that's extreme. And when I started looking into picking up some diff fluid just to try that, because hey, I tried putting some weight on the front and it worked, so why not try something else you guys have suggested? I came across something that I'm not sure if a lot of people realize. This is the 100 weight oil that I run in the rear of my car. If we come to the Horizon Hobby website where you can purchase this 100 weight Losi, Team Losi Racing oil, you will see that this oil is 100 weight, but it's also 1325 CST. Where have we may have heard of CST before? Well, that would be diff fluid. This is some Axial Racing 20K CST diff fluid. You see, what I came across that I didn't realize is a number of shock weight and a CST of diff oil or diff fluid is completely different. This 100 weight shock fluid is actually 1325 CST. CST is just a unit of viscosity, the thickness of the fluid oil, and 100 weight shock oil is not 100 CST. So I'm reading about people running 1K and 3K CST diff fluid in their shocks. And I'm thinking that's extremely high compared to my 100 weight shock oil. But in reality, I'm running over 1K CST diff fluid already in my rear shocks. Now, that's not to say I couldn't go a little higher. I do have some 3K CST fluid on order, gonna be coming in along with some other things that I'm kind of interested in playing around with. And we'll try that out in these shocks in another video. But I felt that was really important for me to cover, as that's something new that I learned while trying to make this video. So is 100 weight shock oil enough? Is that the same or even heavier than 1K diff fluid? To me, this is enough for me for now. That 3K that I order will be for experimentation, but I'm not gonna be changing shock oil today like I had originally planned in this video. Instead, I wanna talk about something else that a lot of you have commented on that deals with the weight of the car. So, like we mentioned in the last drag racing video, my car is set up right now. I'm at about 3961 front to rear bias, or if we put the body in the car like we really should be weighing it, you can see that brings me to a 40-60 front to rear weight bias. We're 50-50 side to side. I have a whole lot of weight on the front of the car right now. You can see my total weight is over 2,700 grams. That's pretty dang heavy. I've had a lot of people comment in the past about using suspension tuning to balance off weight. And I've done a bunch of research on this topic and haven't found anything definitive. No one really talking about what they do to do that. So I decided today I'm just gonna pass some time and try out a couple things. I have really no reason, no indication, no motives on the things I'm gonna try. It's just a couple of things that I think could possibly work when thinking about it. So we're gonna give them a shot and see if it works. Okay, straight up, that was pointless. When editing this video, I realized there was no point in me showing you the things that I tried. Little things like moving the front shock positions, preloading the rear, changing the rear springs out. None of those things were really gonna move weight around, and me showing you that was honestly gonna make for a pretty boring video. I don't honestly see how we could theoretically take weight from the rear and shift it towards the front without physically taking weight and putting it up front from the rear. But the last part of this video, I think some of you may be interested in, so let's pick back up there. Based on the numbers I was looking at, we'd only need to drop about 150 to 200 grams in the rear. Somewhere around there, that would drop the total weight of the car down to about 2,400 grams, a little over that. And that would get us to 45, 46 to 55, 54 in the rear, front rear weight bias. Unfortunately, I believe the only way to do that is something that I have not wanted to do, but many of you have told me I should. I think it's gonna be time to get rid of the SSD wheels. I love these aluminum bead locks. They look great, but they're just heavy. And not extremely heavy, but you're gonna see as I put them on the scales here compared to some other wheels that's where that extra weight is that I could drop. I'm gonna drop the SSD wheel with the Drag Race Concepts Axis tire on the right side over here. And you can see just that wheel is just about 205 grams. Here we have a Proline split 6 bead locks with my custom 3D printed bead lock rings, 12 stainless cap screws, and a Proline reaction tire without the foam. This tire is actually off of my front engine dragster build. Just for comparison's sake, we're gonna put that one over here on this side. And you can see this tire is only 127 grams. Right there, that's almost 70 grams just in the rear wheels. You put both wheels together and that's 140 grams. That's almost all of the weight I'd need if I just ran these tires in the back of my car instead of these SSD wheels and tires. I'd likely be right at that 45-50 range, which I could live with. SSD front wheel here. This is a J Concepts Hotties tire. We're at 50.2 grams, and here's a Proline Pomona wheel and Hoosier tires, again off of the dragster, and that one's only 39 grams. So It's only about 10 grams there, but altogether you're looking at 80 grams per side. It's 160 grams of total weight. Like I said, getting us down a whole lot closer to that 2400 mark. So now I guess it's time for me to go tire shopping again. So do those theoretical numbers translate to actual? Well, I threw those dragster wheels and tires onto the DR10M, and very quickly, already without a body, we're at 4159 front rear weight balance. Adding the body on, we know is normally good for about a percentage. You can see we're at 4258 now. I'm honestly a little surprised. I was expecting that to be closer to 4555, but nonetheless, that's better. I'm still gonna do some wheel and tire shopping, I guess. We're gonna go ahead and most likely get rid of these SSD bead locks on the DR10M for now. Don't worry though, these things are expensive, so I'm still gonna use them. I have a kind of interesting, fun little project in the works that I'm thinking about, and I think these wheels would look awesome on it, front and rear. And on that build, weight won't really matter. To see that build though, you gotta drop a like on this video and make sure to subscribe. You can even leave your comments down below at what you think that build's gonna be. So today we answered my question. I can't really get weight distribution differently with suspension tuning. In theory that sounds nice, but practicality that didn't work. Hope you enjoyed the video. Next time you see this car, we'll be making some more passes, seeing if we can dip lower in that ET range and higher in that mile an hour. As always, thanks again for watching. Peace.